What's going on, my fellow conservative friends out there? It's your boy Kevin. Welcome back to the 1776 Report. We have another tragedy to break down in today's video. The Nashville Covenant School was attacked by a mentally ill transgender person, and it's just another example of our country, our leaders, our establishment focusing on the wrong issues. So today I was watching a Steven Crowder video, and he absolutely just eviscerates, demolishes this ideology. Let's break it down. Let's get into it. Steven Crowder, he holds no bars. He doesn't care if he's getting kicked off of social media anymore. He's trying to migrate his fan base to a different platform. And you got to love it. You got to love the honesty. You got to love the transparency and just being based in truth. And
the shooter was initially reported as a 28-year-old female. And by initially, I mean correctly. Bring up overlay A there. Yeah. This is from Twitter. Said police have now confirmed the shooter was a 28-year-old Nashville.
So initially, nobody knew what the hell was going on, right? We got reports that it was a man transitioning to a woman, and that's what I thought it was for a long time. See, when the shit hits the fan, when things get real, it doesn't matter anymore. Transgender ideology does not matter anymore. When there's a situation like what happened at Covenant School, it doesn't matter. All that matters was your biological sex. When you are in an emergency medical situation, all that matters is your biological sex. And these police officers who held this initial press conference didn't know. All they knew was it was a biological woman, and they didn't care. They didn't have the time or the political correctness to delve deeper into what this woman really thought she was.
Woman. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, no. See how gender theory, see how the bullshit doesn't work in high pressure scenarios? Female, but the tweet says woman. Oh, but hold on, you have a spokesperson female, and then, hold on a second. Well, you got a sheriff there who's a black guy, so he's definitely not going to be in the know with what white bitches want him to use here. It's going to be really difficult for him to navigate. It doesn't work when it comes to something medical that's serious. It doesn't work when it comes to identifying perpetrators. Okay, so female, woman, I think you get the drift here.
It's 100% true. When it is a high pressure situation, when the shit has really hit the fan, you got to go back to basics. You don't have time. You don't have the energy. You don't have the output to worry about what this person wants to be identified as. All you know and all you can portray is the truth. And the truth is, this was a biological woman.
After that, not too long after that, they confirmed. And by the way, I know that a lot of people say you don't want to make these people famous. I'm not going to be reading her manifesto, certainly.
Right.
But it's relevant in this case. 28-year-old named Audrey Hale was a student at Covenant. And this is something important, too, because we'll come back to it.
All right, so my thesis on this situation is that this lady, this mentally ill monster, was probably, we know, was a student at this school when she was younger. So she was probably dealing with the things that she was dealing with now from a mental health standpoint, this transgender disorder, this gender dysphoria. So she was probably suffering from gender dysphoria as a kid attending this school as well, which was a Christian school. So she probably felt some type of animosity, like she was singled out, like she was attacked because she was suffering from this gender dysphoria. And I'm sure the school tried to help her through that and offer her support, but she had animosity, she had resentment. So she went back like a monster and did what she did.
What they said were assault weapons. One point they said AR-15 style rifles, which is false. I'm not calling the police, I'm not calling chief or sheriff. I'm trying to remember if he was a sheriff or police chief. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm calling him incorrect. I'm calling the people who reported on that incorrect. 2 AR-15 style rifles is wrong legally, and it's wrong from a practical standpoint, which we will get into. This was, I think we have a clip here. Audrey Hale, identified as, was transgender.
I don't know what
hold on a second, pause. Is this the extended clip?
I believe so.
This is the update extended clip?
Yeah.
So this cop here, the one giving the press conference, he was an old school African-American sheriff. He doesn't have time to play the transgender games. He doesn't have time to play the identity politics. He's an old school cop, and his press conference just shows you, when it really comes down to it, how big of a just farce this whole movement really is.
So watch the officer here trip up in trying to answer the media with their loaded questions regarding modern gender theory. You can see he's like, I don't know that you're going to understand this answer, and I don't understand the question.
I don't know what grade she's attended or grades, but we do firmly believe she was a student there.
Did she identify as transgender?
She does identify as transgender, yes.
She identifies as a transgender man or woman?
Woman.
So he said he thought she identified as a woman. She was a woman. She was born a woman. She was born a girl. She had a vagina, right? She was identifying as a male. So it was a woman identifying as a man. This cop was in a high-pressure situation. He was dealing with an onslaught of questions. He was dealing with trying to get statements from his officers, trying to figure out what's going on. He doesn't have time to worry about what this person was identifying as. Could have been identifying as a zebra or a lion. He didn't give a shit. All he knew was that this was a woman, and this woman went into a school and ended the life of 3 innocent kids and a bunch of innocent faculty members and teachers. It was terrible. She was a monster, and that's what this cop knew, and that's all this cop was going to tell the public in this press conference.
I got that wrong.
Strike one.
He was totally guessing. He's like, yes.
Yeah, and he had a 50-50 shot of getting it right, and he still got it wrong. That's how silly this is at this point.
Gosh.
Like, male,
Actually, he didn't have a 50-50 shot because, what is there? There's like 15 now. You can be transgender man to woman, woman to man, asexual, bisexual, prosexual, triple sexual. There's about 15 of them now, so he had about a 5% chance of getting it wrong. That is the only thing I'll disagree with Crowder on here, is that he had a much smaller chance than 50% of getting this one right because of all the different colors on the pride flag.
didn't have no dick on her. That what you asked? Why you gotta do that voice? Shut up. So Hale, the shooter, claimed he and him pronouns on her LinkedIn page in categories that I couldn't give less of a shit about, Alex. Mm-hmm. Of course,
He, her, he, them, they, thee, blah, blah, blah.
This through the media into a panic. And I was actually, as this was coming out, there were message boards yesterday, okay? And we checked kind of these different news message boards and Reddit threads.
I just want you guys to think about, what if this was a white male going into a gay school or an all-black school and did this, and the reason being is because they had animosity or hate towards this school, just like this individual had animosity and hate towards this school because of this school's beliefs. There are a lot of people on the left who are arguing that this was not warranted, not deserved. They're not saying that. There's nobody sick enough, I hope, that are out there saying that this was warranted. But they are, however, somehow defending that this person was probably bullied or they were probably mistreated at this school because they were transgender. This was a Christian school. Christian people have the belief and the right to have the belief that there are only 2 genders, and that is not even a sniff of an excuse. It's not even a question whether this is excused. Hell no, it's not excused. This person was a monster. They were a demon possessed by the devil.
The responses initially were, well, hold on a second. They said woman before we knew anything, saying, are we sure that it was a biological woman? And someone else responded, I know, it's really hard now, right, with this kind of clown world circus. And then it actually happened. So you actually have this outlet, USA Today. I say outlet like, USA Today.
It's a small publication.
Yeah. It's small publication. The Schenectady Herald.
Yeah, you know the thing you throw away every day in a hotel?
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. So they posted this tweet. Police, I should do it in there. Police on Monday afternoon said that the shooter was a transgender man. Officials had a...
So instead of worrying about the victims' names, or honoring those victims, or honoring those heroic cops who went in there, and if you haven't seen that body cam footage, those dudes were badass dudes. They did not give a damn. They did not give two shits if they lived or died. They went in there to charge and find where the action was and take down the assailant. And that's exactly what they did. Those cops were heroes. And instead of honoring those hero cops or honoring those who lost their lives or offering condolences to the victims' families, USA Today was more concerned about this, about misidentifying and misgendering the shooter. What a complete joke our media has become in this country. It's just a joke.
Initially misidentified the gender of the shooter. Oh, I hate you so much.
Yeah. That's not even something that needs a correction.
They are sickos. Our media is sick. They want to turn this country into the Hunger Games where you have the elites, and the elites turn us into these purple-haired freakazoids, and they control everything. They control the strings, and it's just a big Hunger Games situation that we're dealing with.
And the New York Times also did this. There were several outlets that went out there and were like, they didn't apologize, but the tone of the tweet, the fact that the tweet even existed.
Right. That tweet does not need to exist. There's no reason for it. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that this shooter was misgendered or misidentified. It does not matter. All that matters is this person was a monster, a satanic monster, went into a school and took the life away from 3 little kids. Those kids will never get to go home again. They're not going to grow up and graduate college. They're not going to have kids of their own. Their life was stolen from them for no reason. The sole reason being some monster felt they were mistreated because they wanted to be called Susie instead of Sam. That is not a reason at all. And these mainstream media outlets should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah.
It was just like, who at this point, who cares?
Yeah. That's what's most important to them, though.
I know, but they feared that.
100% that's what is most important to them. They love this identity politics shit so they can divide the country. They can pit us against each other. You got transgender over here. You got white. You got black. You got Asian. You got all these different sects of the country. But that's not really the purpose of this country. The purpose of this country is we're all Americans. Doesn't matter if you're gay, you like dudes, you like dick, you like vagina. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. All that matters is you're American, and our kids should have the right to go to school without getting shot up by a freakazoid monster.
Yeah. More than anything else, it's like a person did that. I don't care, he, she, whatever.
None of their arguments work. Like, don't dead name him. She's dead.
She's dead, and that is the only good that came out of this whole situation.
There you go.
She gone. She is gone.
He, she, they, them, gone. Gone.
He gone.
In very
Thank God.
hot place.
Yeah, I hope she's burning
last
in
week's
hell.
episode on the reality of hell.
Hey, there could have been an episode. It could have been redemption in that last moment, but
Unlikely.
yeah, I would hedge my bets. And by the way, according to the police, the shooter's identity, it's relevant. It played a role here.
Is there any reason to believe that how she identifies has any motive for targeting the school?
We can give you that at a later time. There is some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly.
That's 100% the reason the school was targeted. The school was a Christian school preaching love in the Bible and preaching that there's probably only 2 genders because there is only 2 genders, right? You're born with a wiener, you're a man. You're born with the vajayjay, you're a woman. That's the way the world works. Some people don't like it, but that's the way things are. That's biology. So this person was angry because this school didn't preach the transgender beliefs. This school was teaching kids the right way. This person wanted to live the wrong way. And instead of saying, all right, they disagree with me, I'm going to go live my life how I want to live it, which this person had every right to do. Now, I think if you want to call yourself a woman, if you're a dude, that's your right. This is America. This is a free country. You have that right to live however you want to live. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. I think everybody should have the right to live the way they want to live. Other people should have that right too. And other people should have the right to think how they want to think and live how they want to live without you going and taking their life because they don't see things the way you see things. You see the hypocrisy there? This person is angry because this school doesn't see the world like she saw the world. It's just all flipped. It's backwards. The mainstream media wants to portray that Christians and conservatives don't see the world the way they see the world. So the Christians and conservatives are wrong and they should be punished. But in reality, go live your life. We don't care. We just don't want to get preached this nonsense every day of our life. We don't want it in our face. We don't want it in our kids' face. We want to live our life how we see it, true to our beliefs, true to our way. Our way may not fit with your way, but it doesn't matter. Go live your life your way. Just don't put it in our face, in our kids' faces.
Exactly. We'll let you know.
So was this a targeted attack?
It was.
That is the face of a man who has no respect for the people in front of him.
Yes, no, but
He's like, this bullshit.
Yeah.
and that first question, did how she identified play a role? And he paused in the interior monologue was like, hell yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But before that,
we'll get back to you on that.
What do I say? What do you say?
Yeah. What kind of question is that? Was this a targeted attack?
Yeah.
Of course it was. No shit, bitch.
Well, think about it for a second.
You should have been a police chief. No shit, bitch.
We're gonna make a great Commissioner Gordon. Batman shows up, sees the signal, like, I saw the signal. No shit, you dumb bitch.
And now our spokesperson, Mike Tyson, will handle the rest of this interview.
So here's something else, too. The police did reveal that this shooter had mapped. Yeah, well, before we go back to that, maps, a manifesto. Look,
This woman was so sick and demented that she planned this out. She mapped out the school. This was a planned, mapped out, premeditated sickness, demented monster who mapped out the school, wrote out a manifesto, pages and pages of a manifesto, and went in there and acted this out. Now, I understand depression. I understand mental illness. But do you know how sick and demented and just a monster you have to be to not only want to take your own life, which I don't agree with. I think it's wrong. I think there's always a way out, but I get it, right? You don't think there's any way through this. You're so depressed. You're so caught up in today that you don't think that it's worth tomorrow. But do you know how fucked up you got to be to not only want to take your own life, but to want to take the life of young, innocent kids? That's what I don't get. No understanding of how fucked up you got to be in order for that to come through your head. I just don't get it. You got to be just a monster.
This is a trans activist, right? This is a self-identified trans activist who targeted a Christian school, went to a church, by the way, beforehand, from what we know, and shot into a church. There were some reports of that, but it was empty, just kind of didn't actually hit anybody. Someone who targeted a Christian school. I don't believe in labeling crimes hate crimes because murder doesn't need a footnote, but if you do, well, I'd say this one certainly qualifies, Charles. So the police did actually say the shooter did have a manifesto and maps of the school, meaning this was very premeditated.
Yeah.
And no motive at this point? Anything discovered in the apartment or house?
No, we have a manifesto. We have some writings that we're going over.
The motive is clear here. The motive is that this person thought she was born the wrong gender, and the school thought that there was only two genders and that the gender you're born with is always the right gender. And the assailant was so angry at this fact that she felt the need and felt warranted to go in there and take the life of children. That's the motive. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. And the left wants to portray that the conservatives and people who do not believe in this transgender ideology are the wrong. We're in the wrong here. However, I don't give a damn. I'm about as conservative as you can be. But I really don't give a damn how many genders you think there are. You're welcome to live your life. Just keep it out of my kid's face and keep it out of my face. And I don't want to have to be told that there are multiple genders, right? I think the way I think, and the way I think is maybe not the way you think. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Doesn't mean I should have to lie to myself. Doesn't mean I should have to tell my kids and act a certain way and walk a thin line. You have your own opinion. I have my opinion. Let's leave each other alone.
That pertain to this day, the actual incident. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place. There's right now a theory of that we may be able to talk about later, but it's not confirmed, and so we'll put that out as soon as we can.
Yeah, and they scattered a second location, by the way, and also that share.
So she was planning on going into the Covenant Christian School in Nashville and then had a second location plotted out as well. Sick, demented bitch.
Sheriff. Is it sheriff? Is it police chief? Is it sheriff? I want to make sure I have the terminology correct.
All right, so Crowder did a great job breaking that down. And then after this happens, everything transpires. We expect the President of the United States, Joe Biden, to come down, have a press conference, address the nation, offers condolences to the children, offers condolences to the children's family, and thank the hero cops that prevented more kids from losing their life. But what does Joe Biden do? He is so demented, he has such a bad case of dementia and probably Alzheimer's that he does this. What a joke. We have jokes leading the United States right now.
The moment the president came out on Monday, I was waiting to hear what he would say. At the moment, I happened to be in tears thinking about these victims. I was in a group text with moms. We were thinking about our own kids. We were thinking about the loss of these families. I believe that moment in my life spoke for how Americans generally were feeling. And you saw the president come up, and I saw a smiling face. I had it on mute, and I turned up the volume, and this is the first thing I heard as I was in pain along with the grieving nation.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband, and I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream.
So you didn't come down because there was just a mass shooting and a bunch of kids lost their life. You didn't come down to address the country and maybe try to offer solutions without being partisan and being political. Nope, he came down to talk about himself and his wife and how he loves chocolate chip Jenny's ice cream. And talk and make jokes in front of a bunch of liberal whack jobs. No, he didn't want to come down and address the country. He is lost, folks. He is lost. They are propping him up with whatever they're propping him up with. I'm not going to make I'm not going to take guesses on what they're giving him to keep him awake, but this man is suffering. This man is suffering from a neurodegenerative disease, a neurological disorder like Alzheimer's, ALS, dementia. He's got something going on, and it's not good. It is not good. I really do not think he can run for president in 2024. I think the Democrats, the reason he hasn't announced his cabinet, his administration has came to him and said, Joe, we appreciate the job you've done. I don't, but we do. And we think it probably shouldn't run in 2024. If he was going to run, maybe he will run, but I just think he cannot do it. The decline that we have seen over the last 4 years, just in 4 years, the decline is substantial and stark. So imagine 4 more years. Not even 4 more years. You're talking about a year and a half until the 2024 election, and then another 4 years. So 5.5 years from today, what will Joe Biden look like? Serious question here. This is not partisan. This is not political. This is somebody suffering from some type of neurodegenerative disease, and it progresses. And as it progresses, it gets worse, obviously. In 5.5 years from today, Joe Biden is going to be in a bad spot. He will not be able to finish out a second term, in my opinion. And I just don't see any way forward for him to run in 2024. The Democrats are probably scrambling to put a ticket together to figure out who they can get to run in order to fill his shoes, because Kamala ain't it. Kamala ain't it. If Kamala was doing a good job and was well received by the American public, had high favorability in poll numbers, then this wouldn't be an issue at all. But they are scrambling, trying to figure this out, because we have a president who is on the decline, and it is pretty obvious. The tragedy in this situation is terrible. It's always so heartbreaking to think about, especially for a parent like myself. Kids losing their life, innocent kids who don't deserve it. Their kids are so innocent, right? They have no bad blood in their body. They are just innocent little things. And as a father myself of an 8-year-old little boy, I just cannot even imagine what it feels like to get that phone call. But in these situations, we also see heroes rise to the occasion, like the police officers and like Catherine Kuntz, who is the headmaster, or was the headmaster of this Covenant Christian school. She was in a meeting during this shooting, stopped her meeting and ran right into the line of fire, ran towards the sound of gunfire, and this Catherine Kuntz was a hero. The headmaster, Catherine Kuntz, was killed during this mass shooting, and she's being hailed as a hero, and rightfully so. She was among the victims during Monday's mass shooting, which claimed the lives of 3 9-year-old children, a custodian, a substitute teacher, and the final victim was Miss Kuntz. Witnesses told Pooley when Kuntz heard the shots, she abruptly ended the meeting and left her office and headed towards the shooter. The witness account, which Councilman Pooley says has been verified, aligns with statements from Metro Nashville Chief Police Officer John Drake during a press conference, who stated, "I did see the head school person and she was in the hallway by the office. She was in the hallway by herself. There was a confrontation, I'm sure. You can tell the way she was laying in the hallway. This lady got up from her meeting and ran towards the fire to protect kids." You have sickos in this world. You have demented monsters like this assailant, like this satanic criminal. And you also have heroes like Catherine Kuntz. Tucker Carlson also did a really good job breaking down the situation that we are currently facing in the country, and it's pretty damning. Let's take a listen.
Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty. Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses. That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community. People who believe they're God can't stand to be reminded that they're not. So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled. They are on a collision course with each other.
And that is the point. That is the point. You have two differing beliefs. You have Christians who think there are two genders, and then you have the transgender movement. And I personally think the difference is, and this is pretty stark. You have Christians in the right, we believe what we believe. We think what we believe is right. But I'm not going to go to a transgender person and say you're wrong. I'm not going to go to the left and say you're wrong. You can't do that. You're wrong. You have to believe what I believe. But the left and the transgender movement are making the argument that it's discriminatory to be Christian and believe what the right and conservatives believe. And that's not the case at all. We just have our beliefs. We want to believe what we believe and be left alone about it and not be told that we're wrong and that we're discriminating against people because we believe the things that we do. However, the left can't let it go. They can't let it go. If you don't agree with this transgender, misgendering nonsense, then you're a bigot. And that cannot stand. We cannot allow that to stand. We have to continue forward. We may get called all kinds of bad names. We may be told that we are discriminating against people, but that's not the case. I think if you're a transgender person, you should be able to do everything else that non-transgender people can do. However, I only think there are two genders, and that's it. That's the bottom line. And instead of attacking this head on, instead of trying to put resource officers in every school, our government is sending billions of dollars overseas to Ukraine. I broke this down, the math. We've sent over $30 billion, and that's a low number, $30 billion to Ukraine. With that $30 billion, we could have spent $45,000 a year for over 600,000 resource officers. So there's 100,000 schools, including colleges and private schools in the United States. So with those 600,000 resource officers getting paid $45,000 a year, could be retired police, could be retired military. You could put a resource officer in every school in the U.S. Some already have some, so that number would be lower. Some already paid to have resource officers. But the ones that don't, you could put a resource officer in there for 6 years. It would probably be more like 2 decades because there are already a lot of resource officers in public schools. So we could put resource officers in every school in the United States for over a decade with the money that we've already sent to Ukraine. But instead of figuring this out, instead of getting it right and protecting our kids, this is going to become a political issue. It's going to become left versus right. It's going to become you're wrong, I'm wrong, you're right, I'm right. It's going to become transgender versus bigots. It's going to become misgendering bigots versus transgender. And that's not what it is at all. This is America. We are allowed to believe and follow our religion without being called bigots. We are allowed to think what we think. And the transgender movement and Christianity are on a collision course, and it's sad to see. And it's sad that this tragedy is sparking this debate. This is the way it usually works. There's quiet, there's silence until something like this happens, and then the debate arises. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Praying for those kids and their families who lost their lives to this monster. I love you guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. Peace.